One of the world's largest companies is eyeing 600 acres of land north of Cincinnati for a massive project. And with the recent increase in high-end home sales, $1 million doesn't buy what it used to. Plus, a former golf course is making way for new houses, apartments, and a grocery store. This is Above the Fold.
Are you looking for that perfect fall getaway? Then start with the Destination Wallet Hub ranked America's #2 staycation city. Explore Cincinnati and Northern Kentucky's incredible food scene, bourbon scene, vibrant neighborhoods, and riverfront attractions by day. Then experience Blink, the nation's largest immersive art and light festival, October 8th through the 11th. Bright days and brilliant nights. Plan your trip at visitcincy.com/blink in all caps -beyond.
Welcome to Above the Fold, a podcast by the Cincinnati Business Courier, presented by Cincinnati Regional Tourism, where we bring you the week's top stories and interviews with newsmakers that take you behind the people and personalities in the news. Now, you may be saying to yourself, this sounds a bit different, and you would be correct. I'm your host, Tom Demeropoulos, filling in for our regular host, Andy Brownfield, as he is off enjoying his paternity leave. I'm joined by today's co-host, Special Projects Editor, Nikki Kingery. Welcome, Nikki.
Hi, Tom. It's good to be here.
Are you ready? Is this your podcast hosting debut?
It is indeed. We might say Mom has entered the chat.
Excellent. It's great to have you here. Above the Fold, it's like all the news that's fit to print, only it's not trademarked. It means the biggest stories of the day, the top headlines that appear on the printed page, and it's legally safe name for us to use for our podcast, which we still probably should have cleared with corporate before we launched this 3 years ago. But it's also a mission statement for this podcast, to bring you the biggest news of the week in an interview with a newsmaker that takes you deeper than the day's headlines. This week, we have Kristen Schlotman, President and CEO of Film Cincinnati. If you enjoyed seeing Cincinnati's Union Terminal in the new Superman movie, you have her, at least in part, to thank. But first up, Nikki, Andy and I were discussing last week Amazon's economic impact on Northern Kentucky since it opened its air hub here. Are you someone who gets daily Amazon deliveries, or are you more of a casual user, or do you avoid Amazon altogether?
So I think I'm of a generation too who maybe uses Amazon a little bit less. It's not my go-to, but on the other hand, I have two 20-something sons living at home currently, and I feel like we are getting Amazon all the time, along with DoorDash. But
Yeah. I'm in the same boat with my kids. Amazon is at my house at least once a week. So they're a regular on my Ring doorbell. I see a delivery getting dropped off. Yeah. Well, Amazon is also looking to bring a massive investment now north of Cincinnati. Amazon Web Services is negotiating a planned data center on about 600 acres in Madison Township and St. Clair Township, which is just south of Trenton in Butler County. Now, a source familiar with the proposal put the total investment for this project at around $5 billion. And the project would consist of 18 buildings, roughly 220,000 square foot each.
Kind of hard to get your head around all of those numbers. I don't know if you're familiar with some of the TikTok trends, I guess, of people driving past these huge data center sites, filming how long it takes to actually drive past them. And it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, 600 acres. It's hard to get your head around just how big of a space that is.
Yeah, not to mention $5 billion.
Yes, what an investment. Right now, the property is owned by 5 different property owners, including the City of Trenton, 2 Duke Energy subsidiaries, Watson Gravel, and then a private individual. And now, Nikki, the City of Trenton and property owners are petitioning to annex that land into the City of Trenton under what would be a rarely used expedited annexation procedure to help with economic development projects. The Trenton City Council voted on August 6th to approve a resolution consenting to the annexation. And so now we're kind of in the process of getting this project going.
Yeah, I understand it goes to the Ohio Department of Development after this, which has to certify some of the, certain thresholds, how much the investment is, et cetera.
And then with these projects, a big thing that people are looking at is, well, what is this going to do to the electric infrastructure? How is this going to handle, how is the power there? And in this case, AWS, which is Amazon Web Services, they're saying that the electric infrastructure will be funded by them and then turned over to Duke Energy. And AWS would also fund sewer infrastructure. And the city is working on possible tax increment financing to ensure full tax payments for Edgewood City Schools. So you get kind of the benefit there. As of this time, Amazon has not responded to a comment request about this project. Trenton Mayor Ryan Perry said the project will advance regardless of kind of which jurisdiction it's in. He said kind of the question at this point is, where is the welcome to Trenton sign?
Yeah, apparently, who's going to pay the taxes? How much? We shall see.
So, Nikki, when was the last time you were in the market for a house?
Oh, 25 years ago, Tom.
Okay. Now, in the time since you've moved into your home, have you ever been looking? Do you peek around at what's available on the market?
I do get curious. We almost moved probably 18 years ago or so. Kids were growing, but ended up adding on to our house and have stayed put since then. But it's pretty amazing how the values have changed.
Yeah. So I'm in a pretty similar boat. We've been in our house almost 13 years now, but I'm one of those, I would call myself a Sibsy stalker. Like I'm on Sibsy Klein on a regular basis, just looking, just checking out what's on the market. And part of it is for work. Like it's just to see, what homes are coming up on the market that are newsworthy or interesting, what neighborhoods are seeing a lot of activity. But part of it is pleasure. I just am interested by real estate. But with our second story here this week, what's been really surprising is since the pandemic, the rate at which home prices have escalated, and also the number of these high-end home sales that we're seeing in the market. It's pretty incredible.
It really is. I see it all around me. I live in Hyde Park, Mount Lookout area, and I'm aghast at how much things are going for.
Yeah. So for me, I've only dreamed of buying $1 million home at this point. But I don't know if you've ever, speaking of TikTok, have you seen the videos of people where they say what I thought $1 million home looked like, and they drive past these mansions and like what is actually $1 million home? It's a little bit different.
Yes.
It's not exactly what $1 million doesn't buy what it used to.
No, definitely not.
So here in greater Cincinnati, $1 million home sales have tripled in 5 years, rising from 184 in 2020 to 582 in 2025. And we're on pace to surpass that in 2026. In addition, looking at real high-end home sales of $2 million and up homes have just surged. There were 71 closings in 2025, and we're on pace for more than 80 this year.
And fascinating, given the interest rates where they are, doesn't seem to be having any impact.
And there's a reason for that. So as our freelancer, Dave Holthouse, who wrote this story for us, it's our cover story on Friday, cash is dominating at the high end. More than half of the $2 million plus purchases were all cash deals. So these are buyers who aren't concerned about, whether interest rates are at 6.5% or 7%. They're just saying, hey, this is a good investment. This is a good place for me to put some money. And they're buying these homes.
Would be a nice position to be in.
Yes. And with this activity, Indian Hill remains Cincinnati's luxury capital. There have been 6 $4 million plus sales over the last 12 months. That's not to say that there aren't other parts of town where there's a lot of activity. You mentioned you're in Mount Lookout, seen some activity there. Hyde Park has also seen a ton of activity, especially as of late, even just in July with a $5 million home sale.
I think July there were like 4 of the 10 top home sales were in Hyde Park.
Yeah, so this is a boom that just keeps going. Dave Holthouse dug into a ton of great information here, a ton of really good data. If you haven't had a chance to look at that package in print, it's a really sharp story and look at just what we're seeing here in terms of the high-end home sale market. Now, Nikki, one of the things that we're seeing with home prices rising is the movement of people farther out into the suburbs. So to provide housing for those who are looking for a little more breathing room, something has to go away. In our next story, it's a golf course.
It is. Tom, I grew up, Lakota Hills was the name of it, but it eventually turned into home sale lots and condos.
Are you a golfer? Did you play?
I did not, no. But we frequently would end up with golf balls landing in our yard. My stepbrother and I would collect them and then sell them back to golfers along the way. So.
Did people buy them?
They would, yeah.
Oh, that's nice. Do you remember what hole you were on?
It was close to the 17th hole, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. Are you sad to see another course that's being converted to another use?
Not being a golfer, I can't say it. It disheartens me too much. And God knows we need more housing, right?
Oh, we do. We do. So in this case, Fort Mitchell-based Drees Homes plans to break ground before the end of the year on a development that will be replacing the Eagles Nest Golf Course in Goshen Township. So that's out in Claremont County. And this is about a 163-acre site off of State Route 28 that will include a mix of 305 single-family homes, a 250-unit apartment complex, and a 140,000 square foot Kroger-anchored commercial site. So big development coming to this part of greater Cincinnati.
Really is. And it's interesting, the growth out in these outlying areas, especially east of here, really changing the landscape.
It is. And, in this case, the Goshen Township Zoning Commission unanimously approved the final development plan for the single family portion back on August 3rd. And then Drees is partnering, obviously, as we said, with Kroger to be the grocery store operator. And they've also partnered with Bellevue-based Brandy Corp on the multifamily development. So that will be kind of another component there. So you'll have a mix of housing types. You've got people who'll be able to buy homes. You'll have rental units, and then you'll have a good amount of retail.
Sounds like a good mix.
Yeah. So in terms of Kroger's final development plan, that's something they'll be filing on their own. Drees Midwest Land Director Matt Maines described Kroger as full steam ahead on their planning for the large anchor store there. Now, the project is going to be divided into 3 phases, with phase 1 covering the initial 59 home sites. Phase 2 will cover road improvements and the start of the commercial construction through fall of 2027. And then phase 3 extends into 2031 for the remaining homes. All right, so our next story takes us to Northern Kentucky with another example of the economic engine that is Cincinnati Northern Kentucky International Airport. Nikki, do you know why they use CVG for the airport?
Covington.
Yes, it refers to Covington, which was the closest city when the airport first opened. In addition, the CIN abbreviation was already taken by a small airport in Iowa. I did not know that.
There is a Cincinnati, Iowa. Did you know that?
Yeah.
I lived in Iowa, so I swear.
Yeah, it's too late for us now, but should we have taken CIN back?
We totally should have.
Yeah, that seems like a missed opportunity.
The Cov has its own kind of vibe.
It does. And now, CVG, everyone will call it CVG going forward. It's too hard to make a name change at that point. But again, we've seen a lot of economic development around the airport, and that's going to continue with Florence-based Athena Hospitality Group, where they plan a $100 million mixed-use development on about 15 acres at 4700 Houston Road near CVG. This project is expected to include 2 7-story hotels, an office building, and a restaurant building. At this point, we know that one of the hotels will be a Residence Inn by Marriott, but the brand of the second hotel is still being negotiated, and it will either be a Hilton or a Marriott property.
And I guess this project might get a little more scrutiny, in particular because that whole Houston-Donaldson corridor is really just getting under development, right?
Yes, that's right. And the other part of this project that I think is interesting is that Athena Hospitality, which is the operator of these hotels and their hospitality company, they're planning to relocate their headquarters to this new office building they want to build on the site, which would be,
big commitment.
Big commitment. Good for the area to have a growing company like that kind of plant its roots with a new building. Now, at this point, Athena Hospitality operates a portfolio of nearly 30 hotels across Kentucky, Tennessee, and Louisiana. They've got another 6 under construction and 11 more in development. As far as this project is concerned, the groundbreaking is expected in the second quarter of 2027, even though the project still requires, as you said, some zoning approvals from the Boone County Fiscal Court and the city of Florence. All right, Nikki, for our final story, you're a vegetarian, right?
I am. I actually pescatarian, Tom. I do eat fish, but I have not eaten meat more than 30 years.
Okay, more than 30 years. Is there anything do you miss having a steak or a burger?
I don't. Burgers on the grill, but veggie burgers kind of do the trick for me.
Well, so for our last story, we're talking about Crown Restaurant Group revealing their new concept for their restaurant in Over-the-Rhine. And this is a restaurant that will have a pretty limited menu overall, but especially for someone who's not a meat eater, a carnivore, as it will essentially just be salad, French fries, and martinis.
I can't decide if that sounds like girl dinner or an episode of Mad Men.
Yeah. So I don't know about you, but I love restaurants with limited menus when I'm looking to go somewhere, especially in town, but more when I'm going out of town where I'm, somewhere new. I like seeing a menu that maybe covers 2, at the most 3 pages, because I want a spot that says, we do 8 dishes so well, it's our entire business. And I'm not really looking for like the phone book menu where you can order just about anything. And I'm sure those restaurants are good. The food will be fine. But if you can't get away with, if you can't hide any of your dishes because you just have, 8
Yes.
to 10, it's got to be greatest hits.
Yeah, this was a head scratcher for me when I first read it, but then I'm like, there's kind of a little stroke of brilliance there. I mean, it's not easy to find restaurant staff anymore. Not like you have to train your servers on 6 different sauces for, 12 different entree items. It's pretty straightforward. People know what they're getting into. And, we have no problem with pizza restaurants, right? Or
That's right.
you go to New York, there are lots of places that will just hone in on one particular food.
Yeah, and that's what's happening here is Crown Restaurant Group, which closed its 5 kitchen and bar back on May 31st at 1324 Vine Street, has decided to reopen the space as Bar Rosso, a steak frites concept with a focus on vermouth-based cocktails, including martinis and Negronis. And now Bar Rosso is expected to open this fall with an exact date has not been set yet. But again, a very limited menu. They're just going to offer steak, French fries, entree salad, and those cocktails.
I'm looking forward to trying my gin martini with a big plate of fries.
There you go. So the restaurant will have a private dining room with seating for up to 50 guests with catering options from Bar Rosso or Crown's sister restaurants, La Santi and Rosie's Italian. Now, employees from 5 Kitchen and Bar were temporarily moved to other Crown restaurants and will return when Bar Rosso opens. In addition to this spot, Crown Restaurant Group's portfolio of restaurants includes Crown Republic Gastropub, Lo Santi, Rosie's Italian, Cantina, and Marigold. So, Nikki, you're in for a good gin martini and some fries?
Yes, hopefully a salad there as well, but we'll have to pass on the steak frite.
Today on the podcast, we have Kristen Schlotman, President and CEO of Film Cincinnati. When George Clooney or Emilio Estevez come to town, you have Kristen to thank. Andy and I interviewed Kristen before he took off to be dad. We talked about the importance of film tax credits, how well Cincinnati stands in for other cities, and the movie-making talent that can be found right here in the Queen City.
With family-friendly attractions, vibrant neighborhoods, there's something new around every corner. The Cincy is the perfect place to spend a day, a weekend, or longer. Learn more or plan your trip at visitcincy.com.
So I know this is a horribly unoriginal question to begin with, but what are you watching these days? What have you been excited by?
That's a great question because I'm craving time to watch something.
Yeah.
And I keep asking people what they're digging into. I mean, I really like docuseries. I find them incredibly fascinating and relevant and interesting. And even if it's a docuseries from something that happened long ago, but it's a new series about that, whether it was a murder or a crime, I can get into those. The one that I did watch most recently and was completely surprised by because I never knew it was out, but after doing a movie with David Gordon Green, and I saw that he had done this series called, is it Precious Gemstones, or I'm getting the title wrong?
Righteous Gemstones?
Righteous Gemstones.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, thank you. I watched that about 5 months ago with some family, and I was blown away. I mean, it was so quirky and so weird, but I never heard of it prior. Had you heard of it? Were you in the know when it came out?
I've known about it, but I've not watched it yet.
Okay.
It's one of those ones like, I don't know. It looks interesting.
It's out there.
Yeah.
I didn't actually finish it because it got a little too out there for me. But it was something that I discovered that I didn't know that he had done. And when you're working with directors and you want to kind of do your diligence on what their prior work has been, that's not one that was on my radar.
No. So are you able to say what you're working with him on?
Their movie's out. We did the Nutcrackers together.
Oh, that's right.
Oh, with Ben Stiller.
Yeah. And what's really interesting about that movie that was shot in Cincinnati, no one knows the backstory of why that was shot in Cincinnati. And for some reason, here we are. We're going to tell you because
Perfect.
David Gordon Green played a small role in Luca Guadagnino's film Bones and All, which shot in Cincinnati prior to that. And while David Gordon Green was in town, he reconnected with a college friend that lived just north of the city. And after visiting the college friend and her family, he was blown away. And he came back and apparently wrote this script about her family.
Oh.
And she had 3 young boys, and they were all classically trained in ballet. And that's the premise of the Nutcrackers. And it was a story that came out of him living here while on the movie Bones and All, reconnecting with a friend and being like, there's a great story. And so that's how that movie happened. And so when he came back to scout that film, we scouted, where the boys actually went for ballet. And then he ended up casting the boys, and he ended up casting some of their friends that they did ballet with. And he used a lot of real people in it from the area. So it was just a really cool opportunity. And then it premiered, when the boys were in their production of The Nutcracker. And that's where the title came from.
It's amazing. So, last time we talked in this room, you said that Cincinnati had historically really just been used for reality TV, and that it was the motion picture tax credit that really kind of flipped that to make the shift from that kind of production to more of what we're seeing today. Tell me a bit about how important that was and why productions are now looking more at
Sure. I mean, but even before we became a reality television capital of production, so to speak, there were movies before that happened. And those movies came because Cincinnati filled practical location needs, right? You couldn't shoot period New York in New York at the time. And John Sayles discovered Cincinnati looked a lot like a period New York. And John Sayles sort of started that trajectory in the late 80s and early 90s. Then movies went away because movies started chasing tax credits. Reality television didn't chase tax credits. They were shooting real people, casting real people. They were much smaller productions. And many of them came here because we have a high concentration of viewership for that type of programming. When movies came back, it was because we put the tools in place to attract those productions back to the area. And it's really those tax credits that get them to take a look at you. It's not that you look like a period New York. First thing they ask is, what is the tax incentive? Because almost 47 states now have tax incentives. And now countries all over the world have tax credits. And it's a much bigger landscape of competition because it's such an international industry now. Tax credits are what would get them to look at us. And then once they're looking at us, they look at, could you do a boarding school in the East Coast? And those are then once you get the yes on the tax credit and they understand the value of shooting in Ohio or Kentucky, that's when we really dive into, well, what projects do you have in development? And are there any scripts I could read and put together a package for you? And I would show them then what it would cost to make the film here, as well as what the film would look like if shooting here. It's tax credits that drive the industry anywhere now. And it's the infrastructure and support that really locks it down. So if we're offering 30%, say Michigan's offering 30%. If Michigan doesn't have a crew base and they'd have to fly everyone in, then Cincinnati would beat out because we have a union roster that's larger than this. So infrastructure also is part of that competitive edge to attract the production, but it's first tax credits, and then it's infrastructure. And then it's basically the locations. And because they are convinced they can find it anywhere. The things we can't do in Cincinnati might be mountainous ranges, but on Extremely Wicked with Zac Efron playing Ted Bundy, I think they just superimposed mountains in Mainstrasse to make it look somewhere in Colorado. There are ways around those obstacles of things we don't have in inventory here in geography or architecture. But we are one of the strongest, most valuable tax credits right now in the country. And we also have a great workforce that's been developed over the last 10 years. And it's that workforce that not only supports these, but it's that workforce that get directors to come back for repeat business. They like the people they're hiring here. They like the quality of work they're able to produce with these individual crew members, and they're excited to return. They're also excited to return because of the talent and the faces that they're finding here, specifically in the Midwest. Todd Haynes has done 2 films here, nearly 3. And each time he's like, what's so great about Cincinnati? It's like we're North meets South and East meets West, and faces aren't completely manufactured or defying age in whatever magical way they are. People still look like themselves, and then they emote like themselves. And he says that a lot of that really adds to the detail of the film shot. So
Yeah, I was going to ask about our people. Like, how does Cincinnati's people capital play into that?
well, I mean, it's played very well for us. Not only do we have a lot of enthusiastic people that want to play background, right? And that's a job. You are on set just as long as everyone else. And it's not always exciting. And when it is, but you are just as important as everyone on set that day. And we have a very deep roster of people that want to do that and are excited by that and enjoy doing it regularly. So that's great. The other thing is our extras casting and background performer casting, they're very intentional about finding demographics that the director needs. So while it's great to have, I know I can always count on these people. They're going to be on time. They're going to show up. You also want to say, well, I also want to find for the bike riders, I want to go to biker bars and find people that look like bikers, because not only do they care about the content, but they care about the storyline, and they also bring everything a biker has to set, and that was really exciting. And, Lynn Myers and her team, Becca Shaw, they're incredible. They really go out and find whatever that director's looking for. I don't think I've ever had a director come to Cincinnati in the last 30 years that hasn't fallen in love with the faces and the acting ability of many of the people in this region.
So you talk about the importance of having the crew base here. How do you build that up? And if it took a decade, did that start with Carol?
It started all the way back, right? It started in the 80s and 90s when people started working in this industry. And then when film work went away, many of those same freelancers were doing commercial work or industrial videos. There's a lot of Fortune 5 here that are doing that type of work and needing those crew people. So those crew people still existed, and we're training other people. When we got the motion picture tax credit in place and the movie business was coming back, what we had to do is go back to many of those people and say, would you like to come back to the film side of things? Which is, if they're older in their career and they know the hours and they might not want to come back. Some did, but it was finding a pipeline of people that were enthusiastic, that were willing to learn various departments and the trajectory within those departments. And so if we got some great department heads here that were willing to take chances on local people, even in a production assistant role, those production assistants are now heads of departments since this tax credit has come into fruition. So that's what building a workforce is. And then it's working with the universities and the colleges and the state colleges. And it's finding people that are enthusiastic about this and then showing them that it is possible and how to not only sell themselves, but how to find a door in and be trained in those various departments. Because even though you study it in school and you have a degree in either film studies or filmmaking or production, whatever, i.e. media, there's so many different silos that you can study. Getting firsthand experience is the way this industry learns firsthand, and being able to fail in that firsthand experience and having people that mentor and train you in that, and also having a film office that's there to support you. So I always tell people, if this is your first job, keep me on speed dial. If you don't know the answer and you have to find out really quickly, feel free to call me. Also, don't ever pretend you know the answer. Say you don't know that answer, but you're one phone call away from finding out, and make that call. And if I don't know that answer, I will find out, but that's what we're there to support, because we want you to succeed. We also teach them things like how to build their resume that speaks to productions, how to interview that makes them more attractive, basic things. And this stuff sounds so unimportant in the real world, but it's the most important in our world. If a movie calls you and leaves a message, you have about 10 minutes to call them back. They're not waiting around for the rest of the day or tomorrow they're going at lightning speed, and they're going to keep going down that list. And when someone calls them back and they do the interview, they're going to hire that person. So I always say, if you've applied for a position and you're waiting, keep your phone ringer on, take all unknown numbers. And when they say, are you available? You have to say yes. If you start giving them a a list of, well, on Tuesday and Thursday, I have class. On Monday nights, I have to pick up my daughter at, the answer is yes. I can come in as soon as you're ready for an interview. I'll be there. You tell me and I'll be there. And being available, being responsive, and being resourceful are how you get on a film set.
You talk about some of the physical assets of Cincinnati. It seems to me perfectly tailor-made. This is top of mind because I recently saw the new Superman movie, and we have the Hall of Justice just down the street from us here. I mean, that kind of fell into your lap, or is that something you had to fight for?
No, we fight for everything. That movie, the first Superman, was slated to shoot entirely in Georgia, and convincing the filmmakers that the actual Hall of Justice is in Cincinnati, the actual Daily Planet is in Cleveland. Both Cleveland and myself worked to bring them here to show them the physical locations, and then also to impress upon them our ability to control traffic and city cooperation and police supports. Show them we've done other big productions and that we're willing and able to coordinate that with them in the most professional manner. That sales. It's not just, oh, there it is in all its glory, because to move a whole film company out of Georgia, where they've already signed an agreement with a studio to lease, to move that company is very expensive. And so getting those pieces of that film on the first Superman was a collected effort with the Cleveland Film Commission and Film Cincinnati to work very aggressively towards that. And then once they were here, show them that it's seamless, that we cooperate, that we don't reveal their location before or reveal their content, that we honor NDAs, and that we protect the integrity of the production.
I loved seeing it on film because it looked beautiful. And then they shot a ton in the space, which I didn't realize going into watching the movie. I watched it with my kids the other day, how much was going to be set in there, which is really cool to see, like in the rotunda of a Union Terminal.
Yes, and I was kind of hoping that anytime franchise movies come to shoot in your area, that's a good thing, because that for continuity of the franchise, they'll likely return. And with a building as unique as Union Terminal is and as magnificent as it is, that was really exciting to see that, in my opinion, completely underutilized. I'd love to see more of it and more set design and more furniture and all the things. But, just to have it there, that I thought that front shot of the exterior, it almost looked like it was inserted from a postcard. It was just so different from every other shot in that movie, but it's a tribute to the building itself too. Yeah, they'll be back.
Well, yeah, I was going to say, I know you can't speak about anything that's currently in production or pre-production, but when you do have these, I know you've also had directors come back here multiple times to shoot again in Cincinnati. What's that process like, working with people who've shot here before and want to come back, or are you luring them back?
It's different each time. Killer Films has been here 6 times, and that's incredible. That's really helped sort of fast track our ability to build the workforce and train people, and also get the word of mouth out that Cincinnati is a great place to work, because they know so many people in this industry and they've given other people our contacts. But each time, if it's repeat business, what's great is you already have a shorthand with them. You know specific things about each person, whether it be the director and what kind of housing they like or what kind of food they like, all those things that make that experience better. You have that, so on the scout where we're stopping for lunch, dietary needs, what type of room they like and they're comfortable in. And if you can give them that on the initial scout and they imagine themselves there for 4 months, it's great. Other times you have to extract that information so you can make it as seamless. But beyond just that shorthand, the hard part is making sure that you're giving them new things, that you're taking them to new locations, that they're seeing a different side of this city, because they're working with a completely different story and a completely different crew and cast and all the things. So you want them to feel that they're getting something really unique and that they're discovering on their own. It's not something that they've already seen and maybe used and we're going to dress it differently, but something that they haven't seen. And other times, Todd Haynes is probably unique. He has shot in some of the same locations twice on different movies, and it's because he saw something that first time that could be used a certain way, and it's probably stayed with him. So when he started thinking about that next project, those images came into his head, and that was really exciting. But normally, you don't have the same location twice. Arnold's Barn Grill, one of our city's favorite historic spots, and just a really great vibe overall, has been used in many, many movies. And we have an understanding with Arnold's that if I'm coming in with a director, they're always so, doors open, please help yourself, look around. But they never lead on that they've been in other movies. They don't say, well, so and so did this, and so, because they understand now that that would make a director feel like it's shot out. I want to discover something on my own. So we just quietly let them see if they discover something new and something different. So, but that's one of my favorite locations. And it's just a great place to take them because it's so uniquely charming and historic, and also tells a story, and the people in it are wonderful, and family owned and operated, and all the things. So those places on Scouts are just as important as the locations.
It's super interesting to see too how directors will reimagine a place that I'm familiar with. I remember in the Ides of March, seeing when they shot on Xavier's campus, like, wait a sec, that's where I go to church. That's where the Sunday school is, and it's just but it doesn't feel like a church, or it doesn't feel like Sunday school.
Yeah, well, they're looking at it through a completely different lens, which is a really cool way to see your city and explore your city. I mean, I see stuff every day that I'm like, where did that come from? That would be really cool. And I read a lot of scripts, and you see something when you're driving your kids to practice, and you're like, that would be perfect. There's an abundance of wonderful locations in this town, and it's a community that embraces it, that opens their door to you, and that's really exciting to directors, particularly if you're from Los Angeles or New York, where they're over it, and it's already a hassle with traffic and things as is. So that's just another very expensive. It's very expensive, and it's inconvenient, and it's felt that way in those days. So when you have a community that's like, yes, come look at City Hall, or look at and opens their office space, or opens their boardroom, gives you the keys to look at the subway tunnels. They're like, this is so cool.
I'd have to imagine Cincinnati in general is pretty genuinely excited and interested to have that happen. It's not like, oh, we have to go do this. They're like, yeah, this would be great.
And I think in Cincinnati, everyone says we are nice Midwesterners, and we are afraid to show our confidence, or we're afraid to be proud. And I do think that the film industry and the creative industries at large, and I think that does give people more confidence and more reasons to be proud. And it also gives us an international stage to be proud on. And I think the people in Cincinnati recognize that as we build, a very art forward and strategic brand of how people view not just Cincinnati, but the Midwest and the flyover states. I mean, we suffer that because people haven't been here. And I think the louder and prouder we do that, and we can do that through this industry, I think it will really help elevate what happens next in this city.
Awesome. Well, as we wrap up, I got a couple of rapid fire questions for you. What is your favorite thing about Cincinnati?
How can you ask that question? But it's such a hard question. I love this city so much. And I love the film and television, and I don't even know if we can call it that anymore, this creative industry so much, right? That being able to do both and do it every day with passion and every day with energy is something that keeps my heart full, and keeps me working, keeps me sharing Cincinnati with the rest of the world. But the city itself, I mean, there's a million reasons why I love it. I can't pick one, but I would just say I'm very proud to be born and raised here, and very proud to choose it as a place to live and work and raise my own family.
When you have people visiting from out of town, not from the film industry, but just for tourism or to visit, where's the first place you take them?
It changes all the time. I think lately, and this week alone, the Fidelity Hotel. Our office, the Film Commission office, was in the Gwynn building for 20 years. I was responsible for moving the office from Vine Street. That's my very first task when I was hired, into the Gwynn building. And we moved out 7 years ago, and right at the time that this was all going to change hands and a developer was going to come in. But seeing what they've done with that block and restoring not only the history, but exposing the architecture and the vaulted ceilings and the arches in the lobby and the light well, which we could never get in when we were tenants in the building. It was always like pigeons and dead, you couldn't. But seeing what has become of that, I'm taking everyone to the Fidelity Hotel.
All right. And then what's your go-to for a casual lunch and then to celebrate a special occasion?
You know what? I like Maplewood for a casual lunch. I like that it's on the fly. I like that it's easy in and easy out, but still feels like you're having you can sit down and have a nice lunch and it's still like some healthy options. I think that's important to be able to do quickly. So I love Maplewood. I love the Thunderdome restaurants and I love what Joe's done. Where's my favorite? What was the other part?
For special occasion.
For special occasion, it's going to be the Fidelity Hotel, I tell you that. But, Soto's still top of my list. It's consistent. It's beautiful. And I've never taken anyone there that's had a bad time or a bad meal or been unhappy. So there's so many now though. I mean, like, I can't decide, are we going to Wildweed tonight? Are we going to Nolia tonight? There's so many this food scene in this city is off the charts. That's going to be the next thing people discover about Cincinnati, Ohio. We're leading with arts, but this food scene is coming up quickly and it's art in and of itself. And that's another reason why when you bring people from New York and LA here, they're like, I never imagined to love the restaurants. Colette is beautiful. Like they're discovering them. And I know we're not all just eating corn here. Right.
Scotland's pretty great in and of itself.
I don't push that on people. I let them want to ask about it and then I'll be happy to take them. But I want them to be exposed to a city that they can find everything in. And then inevitably they'll ask, well, I hear you have chili. I'm like, well, we could stop and grab a little. But yeah. And I love it. I love it myself. I actually didn't love it growing up. I never ate it growing up. I don't know why. Maybe my family didn't go there. But when we had our kids and it was like after a soccer practice or after a game on the weekend and we could go as a family and the kids would ask for it, it just became a very neighborly, fun thing to do. So yeah, I still like my Skyline. Love my graders. Just took a tour of graders with Rich Grader, by the way, which is really special because I always thought that Graders was known for the raspberry chip, and he exposed me to the very simple vanilla and chocolate and strawberry, and those are his three favorite. And we had some clients sampling them as well, and they were like, "You're right." And so now I have a whole new thing about when I'm taking clients around, and it was just really special to be able to do that with him. I did it some others with like Molly Wellman and explored bars, and I explored Finley Market with Sarah Lancer. So being able to do those things and then having new dialogue to share with people, it's selling this city is a pleasure, but I love learning new things about it all the time because it also helps us be loud and proud.
Kristen, thanks for being with us today.
Thanks for having me.
Above the Fold is a podcast by the Cincinnati Business Courier presented by Cincinnati Regional Tourism. The podcast is produced by Neil Slimmick and hosted by me, Tom Demaropoulos, and this week, Nikki Kingery. Our theme music was written and performed by Dylan McCartney. Come back next week for another episode of Above the Fold.